Welcome to the Sweep College Baseball Weekend Series predictions, where we will run through 5 of the best series coming up for this weekend, which is now weekend 3 of college baseball, and do our predictions. We have a tally of our overall standings so far and how we've done from the previous 2 weeks. I am 8-2. Kevin is 5-5, so has some ground to make up, but a lot of time to do so. We got a long way to go before the end of the season, but we have some super exciting matchups this week in college baseball, starting things off with a lot of rivalry series, especially the ranked head-to-head of number 13 Clemson versus number 15 South Carolina. Should be super competitive. Can't wait to see what comes out of this series. I have South Carolina taking it. I think Clemson looked a little bit iffy last week, so even though South Carolina hasn't faced top competition, I think they've looked more solid overall, and I think we'll be able to win the series there.
Yeah, I do think South Carolina looked a little better this last week, but I'm going to go with Clemson here. I think I just like the makeup of this team better overall, and I'm hoping they're able to bounce back, get a good week of practice in, and kind of just reset and get in a good headspace going into this kind of rivalry weekend.
Yep, next up we have another in-state rivalry with number 2 Florida going to Miami. Even though it's on the road, I just think Florida has too much firepower offensively and in the pitching staff. Miami right now unranked for us. Florida, top team in the nation. It's hard to look past that. They started out a little rough, going 0-1 the first week, but only playing one game makes it a little difficult to really get things all clicking. But turned it around week 2, even though it was against mediocre competition, going 5-0, making that record look good now. I think Florida is able to win the series, if not sweep here.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with this one. It's nice to see some big names playing each other early in the year and, kind of a rivalry setting, like you said. But I think Florida's just too talented and will probably take this one with ease.
Yep, and sticking in that rivalry mentality, we have Georgia versus Georgia Tech. Even though it's a unranked matchup, I think it's both these teams started off pretty well. I think Georgia is undefeated and Georgia Tech is like one loss, so should be a competitive series. I like what I've seen from both teams, but I'm gonna stick with Georgia Tech here.
Yeah, both these teams look like some regional squads right now. Yeah, both looking good to start the year, even though they're not in our rankings. And I'm also going to go with Georgia Tech here. Have one of the best freshmen in the country, just absolutely tearing it up in the heart of their lineup. And yeah, I think they may just have a little a little more high end talent on the offensive side of things.
Yep, and now going over to the West Coast, we have number 22 UC Santa Barbara going to Oregon. UC Santa Barbara has had a little bit of an iffy start to the season. Now at 3-3 overall, and just barely staying in our rankings for the time being. And I think they might drop out from what we've seen so far. I think Oregon is going to be able to beat them in the series over the weekend. UC Santa Barbara might be able to take game 1. They have a really good Friday guy, but I think over the course of the weekend, Oregon, their pitching looks like they have more depth and is able to outlast this UCSB squad.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Oregon in this one. UCSB's just looked a little shaky to start this year. The pitching staff isn't quite clicking like we thought it would. And Oregon hasn't played particularly great competition, but they did face some decent competition in that first round robin. Dropped the one game to a ranked team in Texas Tech, but it was competitive and they looked like a team that should be right where they are, fringe top 25 team right now. And so I think this is a pretty evenly matched series here, but I'm going to go with Oregon, especially since it's in Eugene.
Yep. And then lastly, our final prediction is Iowa at Ole Miss. Both teams have looked a little iffy to start the year, but definitely have good players and have the potential to be ranked if everything goes well. I mean, Ole Miss, it feels like every year is either at the top of the world or in the basement of the SEC. So it's tough to get a grasp of how this Ole Miss squad will perform week in, week out. It seems like it's really just random at this point, but I think Iowa will be the team I pick here. Super back and forth, especially on the road. It's going to be tough for Iowa, especially due to how their bullpen has looked over the past few weeks. Really iffy, but I think that they're able to get that first game and maybe ride that momentum throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I definitely had trouble picking on this series here. I do think Iowa's the better team, but I'm gonna go with Ole Miss here, especially at home. I mean, they haven't looked particularly good to start this year, but the offense was really clicking on Saturday, Sunday, after dropping 2 games in a row before that. And so I feel like that offense may carry over, and with the weaknesses we saw in the Iowa bullpen, I think that may just lead to Ole Miss potentially putting up some big numbers, especially late in the game.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last week where Iowa was up in every game late and threw all those leads away. So definitely possible for that to happen again. But that right there are our series predictions for the upcoming week. Stay tuned for more content.